Now, I have spoken on many occasions about legitimate issues you can have and you can discuss with regards to the Pharisees and the history of the Jews and so on. But these would be legitimate issues you can genuinely discuss in an honest manner. Whereas when people are going to talk about the Talmud, I can guarantee you 99.9% of what you and your friends have said are going to say and are saying right now are complete lies, utter lies, total lies. And you will do everything to defend those lies despite, regardless of any and all evidence. So yeah, besides, as a Christian, of course, you and I are saying, well, Luther was right, Hitler was right, and the Muslims were right, Muhammad was right. Now, when Christians side with Nazi genocidal jihadis and Hitler, I'm going to question your Christian credentials. I'm going to say that you are not Christian. I'm going to simply state that if you think Hitler was right, then that makes you the bad guy. And if you think Martin Luther was right, that makes you the bad guy. So let me see. So yeah, so this is very, very Muslim, as we can tell, right? Now, many scholars have attempted to understand the destructive nationalism and the nationalism of the Germans and the Nazis, right? Some argued that it all goes back to Martin Luther, for he was the first true nationalist of this kind of modern times, and through him, German nationalism was preached to the people, a new religion was founded, and a German God created. Remember, I have already discussed how Martin Luther said that when he was talking about murdering the peasants, right? He said that, yeah. No, look, I've covered James Vickers. I spent 3 months reading the Talmud, which is 3 months more than any of the liars who lie about the Talmud have spent reading it. I spent 12 weeks of my life reading the Talmud. I spent a lot, hours and hours and hours reading the Talmud. I have a lot of notes in the Talmud. I'll do some episodes on the Talmud again. I'm going to have to, but if you search for my name in Talmud, you're going to find lots of stuff on the Jews that I've covered. Most of what Christians are telling are just lies, and they are bad Catholics too. Just so by the way, they are anti-Semitic, vile, disgusting Catholics that I've met as well. There are some very nasty Catholics out there too. So, but Martin Luther stated that, remember, God kills, God beheads, God hangs, God murders, God, and it's not God, it's not you doing it, that's God's hand that's doing it, which is highly Islamic. I don't know what God Martin Luther's talking about. I have covered that and I will cover it again. We will discuss that at length. So now look, while you're having that, that's not a bad statement. I mean, there's some truth to that. There's some genuine truth to that, and that's a fair assessment. That's a fair statement. But you'd have to be. But the thing is, most people don't have any fair assessments. Most people are not making calm, rational, logical statements about it. They're simply just lying about the Talmud. So anyway, so a new religion was founded and a German God created. Let's continue. Now, both Luther and Hitler caused more division than unification. Now, that is highly true. Luther and Hitler caused more division than unification. Now, while Luther is known for his theological work with the Protestant Reformation, although since I've been talking about Luther, Protestants are telling me he had nothing to do with the Reformation, fine. He was just as much a political and social figure as religious. So, sure, you seem a bit, okay, Lloyd, you seem a bit condemnatory regarding people who read it and misunderstand it. It seems like an easy mistake to make given the complexity. Well, let's see. Someone who's lying because he knows he's lying, and someone who's lying even though they don't know they're lying, and those lies have an effect, and those lies cause hatred, and those lies have consequences. What's the difference? What is the difference? If someone lies to you intentionally and someone lies to you unintentionally, and both of them refuse to acknowledge the facts, both of them refuse to go and check the facts, both of them refuse to listen to the facts, what's the difference between them? If someone drives over you accidentally with a car and someone drives over you deliberately with the car, either way, you've been driven over with the car. In both cases, you end up in hospital in a very bad shape. So what's the difference? Is there any positive benefit to the one versus the other? No, there is none. So they're liars. Very bluntly, what do you call them? Accidental lies? Does that make it better? They're just liars, period. So anyway, Luther was as much a political and social figure, and he was a highly political figure. The Protestant Reformation had a political and social impact. It increased the amount of war in Europe. The early Protestant movement was a movement of conquest. Believe it. These guys were looking for ways to make war. The liar who does not know they are lying maybe is not lying. So if you tell a lie but you don't know you're lying, it's the truth. James, please be stupid somewhere else. Okay? Please take your stupidity elsewhere. Don't waste my time or yours. Someone who doesn't know they are lying is not telling the truth. They're still lying. They just don't know they're a liar. They're ignorant on top of being dishonest. Okay? So someone who lies and who doesn't know it is still a liar. Might be ignorant too, could be stupid as well. But yeah. So Luther created a divide between Catholic Germans and the Protestant Germans. He further generated separation between the Germans during the Peasants' War. With 100,000 casualties, Luther was labeled as the instigator of the war. The peasants believed him to be a traitor. Luther was an enemy to both sides, creating a larger rift between the people and the princes. Right, so let's continue. The fact that both men were German and had such similar ideologies makes them a wholly unique duo. It is impossible to assume that Luther did not have any influence on Hitler and his views. Hitler refers to Martin Luther as one of the great reformers of history, and as such, one of the great warriors of this world. It cannot be coincidence that Hitler's anti-Jewish sentiment of the 30s and 40s mirrors Luther's anti-Semitism of the 1500s. In fact, the Nazis themselves acknowledged Martin Luther as their spiritual leader. When on trial in Nuremberg, Germany, after World War II, one of Hitler's top officials declared, "Martin Luther would probably sit in my place in the defendant's dock today if this book had been taken into consideration by the prosecution." Dr. Martin Luther writes that the Jews are a serpent's brood and one should burn down their synagogues and destroy them. Okay, so yeah, did someone make that fool disappear? So thank you very much, XYZ. Much appreciated. It was not supposed idiocy, it was genuine idiocy, James. So the Nazis seem to think that he was just as guilty as they, or that they were just as innocent as Martin Luther. Some people in Hitler's time, now don't forget, whenever there was a Nazi rally, Martin Luther's book would be on public display. It would be kept in a glass case so that everyone could see that they were following Christian principles. And don't forget, Martin Luther does state in one of his writings, I've covered this and I will cover it again, that Martin Luther very bluntly states that we must hate the Jews.